Hey everyone, welcome to Empower Team Monday Night Call. We are so excited because tonight we have a special guest. We have Chris Rosencrans, and she's a Diamond Ambassador with Pink Power. And she, I can't say enough good things about Chris because she is like one of the stable heart and soul of our whole entire team. If you've met Chris, then you've automatically received her love and warmth and been connected to her, which I feel like is her superpower, just her warmth and love. And I personally aspire to love people as well as Chris loves people, and to lead with love the way she does. And her story of, where she came from, and the way she dreamed bigger is just so inspiring. And we're just so excited for you to hear her story. We all the leaders on our team, we just love Chris to death. I can't even say enough good things about her. But you guys get your pen and paper ready and just be so present to hear all the nuggets that she has. And you take it away, Chris.
Oh, my stars. Okay, girl. Well, I love this team so much. And Nat, how long have you guys, a lot of us have been here, like you've been here as long as I have, or if not shortly after. I don't remember like when you started compared to when I started. It'll be 7 years for me. In January 24 is when I hit enroll. That's back in the day. It said enroll instead of join. So anyways, and I have to say I have minimized, and I'm not looking at the chat. So otherwise I would totally listen to all that, check all that stuff out. But I also want to make sure that I don't miss talking, because I want to get through this, and we got other fun team calls to be a part of too. But I just feel so honored that I was asked to share my story. And I hope that I can give you guys some good nuggets of just where I came from, like what Nat said. And I'm going to actually talk about that because I feel like that's a huge part of my story and why I said yes to this. Okay. So I grew up in a really small town, which actually compared to the other towns in South Dakota where I live now, Northwest Iowa, I lived in like a metropolis. It's like, there's so many little 300 people towns around here. They're tiny. You blink and you're through this town. But I grew up in a town, probably a little less than 2000, about 1800. I remember my mom always saying, because I always wondered how big is Hull, Iowa. But I grew up in this tiny town on a dead end with a basketball hoop where everybody hung out. And it was just a really good life. My parents, I went to a small Christian elementary and high school. My parents were both teachers in those schools. So pretty simple beginnings. And I know a lot of this you guys maybe don't know. There's a lot of this that I have not told you guys before, but I just really want you to get a picture of where I come from and where the heart of my business comes from. So yeah, my mom was a first grade teacher, and my dad taught high school history and PE, which I ended up teaching myself. So he was a bit of a role model for me. He was my basketball coach. We had a really tight family. I have a twin sister. I don't know how many of you know that, but we don't look alike. So you're not looking at my twin. We look actually very different. We're fraternal. And I have a younger sister and younger brother, and we were all pretty tight. I get to see them all this weekend. And we really love each other a ton. But one thing about growing up, we had a really good life, but we never really had a lot of money. We didn't live extravagantly, but my dad grew up actually quite poor. He lost his dad when he was 16 to a heart attack. And so he was very poor. They did not have a lot of money. And so my dad was a big budgeter. And he did that right up until his dying day, actually, just always making sure that we were all well taken care of. And so I saw my parents work really hard, and they instilled that in me. And so I grew up with a really good life, nothing crazy extravagant, but we got to go on vacations. And a lot of people back in the day, going to the lakes, going to Florida, going to Arizona was not a thing. Like whatever, 30 years ago, that wasn't a thing. It's more of a thing now. But we got to go on vacations a lot. And it was a lot of times because my dad worked really hard. He painted all summer long so that we could go on a vacation. And so I just valued that hard work, and that family was so important to me. And also a sense of adventure, because we did stuff. We went places. My dad was a history teacher, so he'd like to bring us places and teach us things. And it was really a lot of fun. So I moved, after high school, I went to college just 10 minutes from my hometown. Loved it, small Christian college. And I went to be a K through 12 PE teacher. That's what I was going to do. Didn't want to teach classroom. I really enjoyed sports and athletics and being fit, and just really but I did enjoy teaching. I really believe I learned that from my parents, and I was excited to do that. But when I graduated, there was nothing around here. So I did have a little bit of an adventurous spirit. I looked other places, and I applied at places like North Carolina. And imagine that if I would have lived in North Carolina. But then the rest of my story wouldn't be here, right? So God has a purpose. Looked in California. Actually, I had 2 job offers. LA was one, Los Angeles, and then at a Christian school teaching high school girls PE, how to rock climb and surf like an Iowa girl. How does that even happen? But they had programs. So I would be more of like a helper. But anyways, and then Holland, Michigan. And so I chose Holland, Michigan because it was easier for me to get home to see my family, a little more like a day trip to drive. My mom's from Northern Indiana, so it was a couple hours from my grandparents, and one of my very best friends from college lived only 2 hours north of where I was going to live in Michigan. And her name is Sally Boss. If you guys know my awesome sponsor, Sally Boss. So God plunked me down in Holland, Michigan. And a lot of the reason I moved there was because of connections. And I actually had another college roommate that was from that area too. And she introduced me to my now husband. So I often say I moved to Michigan to be a teacher, but also found my husband, got married, had 3 kids, and was just living the dream of teaching elementary PE. So, like God certainly has like a plan, and that was something that I was always pretty in tune with. I always had kind of an open mind. But like sometimes, as I'm sure you guys have seen, the older that you get, you start to see how God's plan starts to work out in your life. But sometimes you have to ask those questions like, am I really seeing what God's plan is? Are we staying open to what he has in store for us? And can we ever imagine anything more than what we have right now at this moment? Do I deserve more? Is there more out there for me? Or is this good? Is this okay? Well, I never really thought that I would end up in Michigan. But I also knew that I needed to leave room for God to set up his story in my life. And even as I was going through what I thought was sometimes, the more boring and mundane parts of my life, the day in, day out kind of stuff, that really nothing you do is mundane. It all has a purpose. Once you really take hold of that truth, every day is truly a gift, and a new adventure is going to be right around the corner. You just never know, but you need to be open to that. So that's really how I started to live, and it affected different things that I chose to do. And I've got stories upon stories of that. But one thing to go back to, just a little bit of my adventurous spirit. I knew that I had a little bit of that because when I was in college, I actually went and nannied in Maine. Just randomly met a college friend in Target, and she asked me if I wanted to nanny for the summer. So I did have some adventurous spirit in me, and did things on a whim, much to my parents' dismay, but thankfully they had trust in me to let me do some of those things. And I kind of can't believe they did, because now that I have a daughter who's 18 and going to be probably going off on her own in the next couple of years, I'm just like, I don't know if I could do that. How did my parents allow me to do those things? How did they allow me to move to Michigan and do these adventurous things? But it's that trust that they have in you, and then you learning how to trust yourself and making judgment calls, and just seeking what God's will is going to be. So that nanny job did not turn out very good, actually, which was actually a really good experience, because I really believe that experience helped me to figure out how to deal with different people and how to deal with really tough situations and do hard things. That's a whole other story. But that just kind of, I feel like I've had these different experiences in my life that set me up for some of those just adventures, and for me being able to think for myself and make decisions, sometimes on a whim, and sometimes even from having a feeling like something needs to change, something needs to be different. Okay, so fast forward a lot, and 15 years of teaching elementary, 3 kids, probably around the age of 3, 7, and 9. We lived in a really great home in the country. That was something that we always dreamed to do. And things were really good, but things were also not so good. So teaching was going well, but yet there was some changes that were happening. My schedule changed. It was a lot more hectic. My days felt I was really frustrated. I was disconnected, and I just felt like I wasn't appreciated. I wasn't seeing staff very much. And I didn't come to have a lot of expectations. I kind of enjoyed living in my gym box, as I called it. I didn't have a lot of, I shouldn't say accountability. People would check in on me, but I just was kind of given the freedom. They trusted me. They knew that I did a good job, and they allowed me to teach, and I didn't have a lot of pushback, but I also felt really disconnected from community. And there was just some different things going on in the school. And I just was like, desiring something more. There was something in my heart that something's different right now. And I wasn't sure if this was something that I wanted to keep doing. Is this really what I wanted to do for the rest of my life? Also, we were kind of in some financial trouble. We definitely were a 2-income family. Like Christian education had started for us, and it's kind of pricey. And my job was actually kind of a roller coaster. It always depended on classroom sizes, because when you're a PE teacher, you teach according to how many classes there are, and it's different in a Christian school. Things go up and down, and it changes and fluctuates with attendance and all of that. And I kind of taught through that whole era of just different financial issues going on. And so my job was very unpredictable. Every summer when I would see my contract, it changed about every year, and things were thrown at me or taken away, and we just never knew we were going to be at. And my husband worked long hours, 6 days a week, 12-hour days. And he was stressed too. And I could see it, and we could feel that. So again, the question started coming up. I don't know if I can do this for another 25 years. So I just kind of let that thought sit there, not really knowing what else to do, because if there would be any kind of change, it would have to be something lateral. I couldn't really take less pay, so I would have to keep doing the same thing. And where do you go from there? Well, not much later, 2 years later, actually, to be exact, my dear friend Sally started posting about Plexus. And the interesting thing about that is we were actually in a place with our health that both Kevin and I were kind of struggling. When I first started seeing Sally post, the crazy thing is, like, I actually had heard about Plexus from other people a whole year before that. And so when Sal started posting, I called her immediately, like literally. We're very good friends. So we were in contact all the time, spent time together, raised our kids together. And so I felt totally comfortable being like, okay, what are you doing, girl? I know what this stuff costs. Does it really work? And if you guys know Sally's story, she was very much in the same boat as us, like financial struggles. That's a huge part of her story. So if you don't know her story, you need to go find it somewhere, because it's really good too. But I knew where they were at, and I was like, okay, what are you doing? And I knew she had health issues. I didn't have the same struggles she did, but I knew that if she was taking it, she was a dear friend, and I trusted her. And so this must be legit. And she just said that, like, I feel so much better, but Chris, the financial part is amazing. We're not paying for the products. I'm sharing with people, and this is, your puppies behind you. I'm dying. I love real life. Okay, sorry guys, total squirrel, but that is so stinking cute. Anyways, okay, so Sal was like, we're not paying for our products, you guys. So you need to do this. You need to check this out. So that was actually 5 months before I decided to give her an actual call to order. So when people come to you and they're like, they're not answering my messages, or they're not, I'm like, even if you're good friends, it's okay. You got to think about your own journey. How long did you wait before you said yes? How many years, how many months, years, whatever, did you say no to your friend that you started under? And you got to look back to your own story. You know what you know now. And so there's this urgency and there's this understanding that you have, but don't forget that part of your story. That's a huge part of your story. And that's a huge part of mine. Because remember, I said I knew about Plexus a year before Sal started, already decided we couldn't afford it. And I kind of thought that I was like I know it all about health and fitness. And I thought supplements were voodoo and hokey. So for real. But I didn't know what I didn't know. And so it took a really dear friend to pour into me and to build that belief in me. And so I still watched for 5 months. And then my husband, actually, I was ready to join. I was convinced. I was all like bought into it 100%. But I was waiting because I wasn't sure about the money. And then Kevin was like, okay, it's time. I need to get some of this health stuff fixed. I don't want to be on meds. And I wasn't feeling good. And I was like, all right, I'm ready, but how are we going to pay for this? And he was the one that said, and I know this is not everybody's story, but it took one person to believe in me. So whether it's my husband or my sponsor or another friend or whatever, all it does is take that one person's belief for you to just start believing in yourself. And that's all it took. It took Kevin saying, well, why don't you just post like Sal does? And that was how simple it was. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And like, side note, I did an MLM before Plexus, very kind of nonchalant. Like it was for a few years, actually. It kept me kind of busy. It provided a little side money, but definitely not an income. And it made me very busy. And I actually had to be outside of the home in order to do a lot of that. This, I didn't see that way. This I saw as I can do this, after school. I can do this on the couch or in the basement or put my kids to bed, and I can do this. So this looked different to me. Plus it was something that was different than a product that somebody would have to, people would just buy one time, which is what I did before, or something that was a little frivolous and not necessarily a need. This is a need. And I was like, if I don't feel well, and I was not the picture of health, but felt like I knew what I was doing, and I had taken pretty good care of myself, but was having some health issues, then the other people are going to need this too. So that's the mindset that I went into it. And so that's what I did. I called Sal. We ordered our products without any sales or anything like that. We were all in, we like hook, line, and sinker, we're ready to go. And I took a screenshot of the word Plexus at the website and I posted it straight to Facebook. And that was my day one, January 24. When was it? 2016. And took us a week to get our slim, and the rest is history. So you guys, that desire for more was where God met me. Okay. And 3 years before that, I was asking the Lord, okay, is this what I need to be doing? Is this what you have for me? It was good. I was a good teacher, you guys. I loved what I did. But I felt like there was something more out there. And, even though I had this adventurous spirit in my heart, like, okay, I know I can do scary things and I can step out of the box about some things. I kind of stayed stagnant and I just waited. And, sometimes that's what we need to do. Sometimes we need to wait and we need to listen. But when God puts an opportunity in your lap, you need to answer that. And that's what this is. This is an opportunity and an answer to so many prayers. And so that's really where it all started. It started with a call. It started just with a decision. All right. I didn't really second guess what I was doing other than like if we could afford it or not, but it just took that one person to believe in me. It took Kevin to say, well, just do what Sal does. And then it took Sal saying, just do what I do, and just share. And that's it. And I did it. I didn't second guess it. I didn't worry about what people were going to think. And I'll tell you what, like my first 2 messages I got after that post were 2 people that wanted to tell me all the reasons why I shouldn't do Plexus. Those are my first 2 messages I got, you guys. And one was from a family member and one was from somebody who went to my church. But you know what? Both of those people, I had to sit back and go, okay, they don't know what we're going through. they don't know anything about plexus. The person from the church did, but I actually started asking questions right away. So I learned to like ask questions right away, and I found out she wasn't really taking her products the right way. And so I found out why she didn't like plexus, and it was because she wasn't doing it right. And I was, again, super thankful that I had the guidance and I was on the team that I was on, because I knew that we were going to be doing things differently. Did I know anything about gut health? No, absolutely not. Remember what I said about supplements? I kind of thought they were a little bit wacky. But I did know something about nutrition and fitness, and you don't have to know about those things to do this. But what I did have was a willingness to learn and to own what I had decided to do and to run with it. So that's what I did. And then everything from there on out was a decision that I made to do something more. And each of those decisions were based on just a truth that I was grounded in, that got us to this point. We needed the products. We needed the business to help pay for the products. And I also had that desire to do something more, that God had something more for me. I didn't know that this was going to be my purpose yet. Okay. And I will tell you that I was a little skeptical. And so for those of you who are a little skeptical, it's okay, but you need to also live in some trust and live in some understanding that we have something here. Did I ever speak that skepticism to Sal? I didn't. Because it was something that was secret. It wasn't something that I was holding back from, because I never stopped posting. It never held me back from anything. But I think it was just a little bit of not being sure if I trusted myself that I could do this. But the more I plugged into our community, the more I plugged into our Pink Power team calls, because that's all we had at the time, was Pink Power. The more I plugged in the community, I got to know awesome leaders like Natalie and the girls that she was raising up, and my sideline sisters on my team, and different legs under Sal and Sue and Jamie. The more I just kept working with people and learning and growing, the more I started to trust myself, and that skepticism about what my abilities would be just started to melt away. All right. And around the time of when I started to rank up and people started saying yes, and people on my team started sharing, they were having huge health victories, and they were starting to share with their family and friends because they couldn't not. Then just with every victory that we had, it all just, that hope, that trust it became stronger. And that skepticism, like I said, started to just fade away. And at one point when I hit 1,000 points, and I know that seems like a lot, you guys, but you will not believe it when you get there. And then when you do, you will be like, oh my word, I got here. That's when I knew that this was my answer to prayer. That's when I did the math, and that 1,000 point mark equaled my 18-year school salary, something that I had done for 18 years and had been up and down in a roller coaster with. That I had done that with Plexus, and that this was the answer that God had put in my life to help me do more, to help me do something that I'd only ever just had a tiny dream to do, to be a stay-at-home mom, and to be able to spend some more time with my kids, to be able to be the room not mom, to be able to go on the field trips, to be able to not have to call in sick and write sub plans when my kids were sick. Oh, you guys, those are the worst calls ever. When my babies got sick and I would have to be holding the puke bucket at 2 a.m. and writing sub plans in between that time, and be exhausted the next day, and then have to go back to work. You better believe that first day that I stayed home, and that first year when my kids got sick, the gratitude that I had to not have to write those sub plans was such a gift. That time, that's when I knew that this truly was something that God had placed in my life. Did I know it all the time before? Absolutely, 100%. But my belief in myself and what this truly was just was exemplified and was more and more. Couple things too, the reasons that we started, it was for the products, it was for the business, but the reasons that we kept going, because I've had that question is, okay, you've hit diamond now. now what? Now what do? It's not about me. It's about my team. It's about the people that come around you. It's about their goals and their dreams. And so the decisions that I make now, the decisions that I even made when I was gold and senior gold and ruby, it wasn't even about me anymore. It was about the people that I brought into my fold and into my circle. It was about the customers that wanted their health changed. It was about the moms that wanted the extra income. It was all about them. It had nothing to do with me anymore. And that's still the way it is today. It's always about the others. And if that's where you live, then you can go anywhere in this business. Because yes, we have goals and dreams for ourselves, but it's really about the people that you can bring alongside you. And that's where life makes an impact. That's where you can start serving that purpose and living out that purpose. Because yeah, we have the things that we want to do and we have our dreams, but you guys, when you can see other people's dreams coming true because you're doing what you love and you're pouring into them, that's where God does his work. And I really truly believe that's why he has us here. I love teaching. I love teaching little kids. There's a huge blessing of doing that. And I really do believe that I've made an impact with a lot of kids. But I also know that I get to teach in a different way now too, so yeah, it's just been a huge gift and I absolutely love it. So thinking back, as it's often easy to do when you start to get a little older, I'm not sure if I was really a dreamer or not. I did have dreams and goals, but quite often I would kind of think through them and start to doubt as I would think through them. I would start thinking, is that really possible? Is that something I really think I can do? And sometimes I would follow through, like the nanny adventure that I was telling you about, moving to Michigan, not really knowing a soul, maybe having some family and friends a couple hours away, but I didn't know anybody in Holland until I was introduced to my husband. But those were some of the adventures that I was willing to open up. And I think God puts those things in your heart and in your path for a reason. So that spark of adventure allowed me to live just a little bit outside my comfort zone. And I knew it was something that I always enjoyed to discover, but I also tried to be practical and safe too, which I do believe kept me in a safe zone. And that's not a bad thing. But it's when you step out of that comfort zone and we start to challenge the what ifs with a yes. That's when we grow. And that's when God puts those things in our path. And that's when we can dream bigger than what we ever did before. So where did that decision leave us today? Well, our team hit diamond in the middle of a pandemic, which is absolutely crazy. We decided only a few months later to sell our house and to completely uproot our life and move to South Dakota, where we, again, did not know a soul, literally did not know a soul. And I actually fought against that. I'll tell you that. But again, I thought about Kevin because his dream was to do something different. And I remember literally sitting on the porch, like, I don't want to do this. And I started to squash something that he wanted to do, that he had a dream for. And we actually had an ability to do it because my income was something that would support us through it. He wouldn't have to find a job till we moved. He wouldn't have to, he didn't even need to find a job if he didn't want to, but it supported that opportunity. And in the past, you guys, we talked about moving, but we never did it because it was not financially feasible. But this was an opportunity, something we could move anywhere around the world. And honestly, literally around the world. We did a couple mission trips in Africa and took our Plexus with us. And I ran my business 8 hours, 8 hours into the future. And so literally around the world, the opportunity is still there. But God landed us on a dirt road with rolling hills in the middle of cornfields near a really wonderful community. And in the 2 years since we've moved, we've surpassed re-entry points, gained 2 more jewels, and more are on their way. Kevin has now officially retired, I guess, if you want to call it that, from working for someone else. And he now gets to work in our backyard. We get to have breakfast together every single day. and he gets to do odd jobs. He actually and he enjoys that stuff. Like he just loves, and he's met tons of farmers and has made some really cool connections, and he'll travel, and he's getting a really good name for himself. And he just kind of works. Like he was outside working today. There's always some kind of truck or farm equipment in our backyard. And it's just really cool to see him be able to do all of these different things. He also can support me by adding an extra layer of kid support, picking kids up, bringing them different places so I can go different places and support my team in other ways. We're paying our bills without any kind of worry or fear. We're giving back time and financial opportunities for people like we never thought were possible, but were always huge dreams in our heart. And we get to dream daily about what else is in store for our family and our team and our community and our future. And it's all because of that one decision to think outside the box, to hope for something better for myself, for others, always making it about them, wanting other people to get to experience what we experienced, and seeing that this truly is the best place to be, not only because of how this can impact health, but how it can change the direction of your entire life. I found that I'm still living out my purpose that God set before me. It just looks different. So if this small town PE teacher can do it, then why not you?